while you're getting the screens up,
Yeah.
I just want to thank everyone who has contributed to this ministry. And I can tell you that, you know, we have some new microphones. We've got new sound here. You know, we're little by little inching to get the things that we need. And but it's not even just about that. It's about the impact that we're having in the world, and even from Millville, and the impact we're having here and beyond is partly thanks to your giving. So we just want to say thank you.
Yes.
And I'm just forever grateful. So,
Thank you, Jesus.
quick question. I'm sure many of you can say yes to this. Have you ever had a moment where you try to start your car and it doesn't start? Where you put the key in the ignition, which nowadays it's literally like, you know, the newer cars, it's like you push a button, right? And you go to start the car, it doesn't start. And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be late for work, I'm gonna be late for my appointment, I'm gonna be late for whatever, right? You go and you put the key in, and all of a sudden you hear this, like it sounds like a little bit of life, and it's like, nothing. And then you try it again, and there's a little bit more, and it looks like everything's gonna go, and it stops. And then one more time, you just stop for a minute, and then you get that thing going, and it's right at the end, you hear it going, everything's wanting to go, it's wanting to go, and it doesn't. It stops. You still aren't any closer to moving that car. Here's the frustrating part. Many times in our lives, we do the same thing. God gives us an idea, He gives us a vision, He says, here, I need you to do this. I've given you resource, but you haven't executed it. And we're going to be going into the story of Joseph today. Again, to look at execution. Now that's the title of the sermon. Execution. I purposely put this up here for various reasons, but I didn't want anybody to be freaked out and going, oh my goodness, he's going to talk about killing people, how are people dying, you know, like is this kind of certain? No, nothing like that. But, now this is just simply a business thing, but I biblically kind of got some stuff out of it, so that's why I wanted to put it up as my title page here. Success equals P for plan, plus R for resource, times E for execution. When God gives you a plan, and you follow His plan, and you say, well, how am I going to do that, Lord? He gives you resources. Whether it's inside of you with the Holy Spirit, or other people to help you carry it out, money, whatever it may be that you need, but then it's up to us to execute. And this is the part where many people stop. Not just Christians, but non-Christians. So I'm speaking to a wide audience here today. It's very easy to start something, it's harder to finish it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there are times where you start something, it's hard to start it, but then you do finish it. But many times it's the other way around. It's easy to start something. It's easy to say, hey, January 1st, New Year's resolutions, I'm going to start. I'm going to lose weight, right? I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But the problem is, within a week or so, we don't do it. I mean, I'm getting convicted already about the gym downstairs that my son's been faithfully doing and I haven't. So I need to get myself down there and, start to hit it again. But in order for me to see results, I have to execute. And so many times in the Bible especially, you will see people that will have the plan, believe they have the resource, but they never finish the job. They never finish what God's called them to do. The group of Jewish people that were Hebrews that in the book of Judges, actually was around like the end of Joshua, they never fully chased out and conquered the promised land, the people that were in it. And because of it, then you read the book of Judges, it's a messed up book. And it shows you that when you don't go forward and actually go with the plan that God has and fully execute it, you're going to see residue of it. Case in point, if you're trying to live a more pure life and you still have a lot of things that are hanging around in your life that you kind of just let be there, you're never going to be able to fully execute what you need to do. So let's look a little deeper in this, okay? When we talk about success, a lot of times people think of success as like from a Western philosophy. It's, bigger church, bigger business, more win, more money, bigger corporation, stock market, the whole deal. But that's not necessarily what we're talking about here. We're talking about God's plan, okay? We're talking about God's plan. So let's go to the next slide, honey. Now this is something interesting that happened last week that it kind of like popped in there like a couple days ago that I had Pastor Tom that knows going to talk about this, but flashcards. You're thinking, what's that got to do with anything? Well, it's the weirdest thing how God speaks to me. I still can't put it into words. So Thursday night, we have Power Hour. And Pastor Tom, Pastor Judy are gracious enough to join us during that time period where we take your prayer requests and we pray as they come in. And it's been phenomenal. And I thank you guys for being a big part of that. And my wife and I are on the opposite end, and we're all four of us are just working together, taking the requests and praying. Okay? So I come in, I was the last one to come into the room. I had something I had to take care of. And as I sit down, I'm sitting there noticing, I'm like, what in the world is he doing with those cards? And then I'm sitting there thinking, is this like a bank deal or something? Like, am I going to sign a mortgage? I mean, he's surrounded by like all these cards. And I'm like, all right, like we dealing a deck, we're doing a card game or something. Yeah, that's my little mind thing. But I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm like, okay, I remember Tom talking about how he wrote these cards down. Now, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't say anything about it. It was just like, whatever, And he's flipping cards, and as he's praying, he's looking at stuff. He's got his own groove going. Don't want to mess with it. Go with it. It wasn't until the next day. It was the next morning. I'm sitting down with my coffee. I'm sitting down. All of a sudden, I heard flashcards. Like, what? Flashcards. See, what you don't know is, it's been several years that my wife and I have been talking about doing flashcards. And I do mean talking, not doing. Haven't done it, haven't done it, haven't done it. Okay? And every morning, when I had some real rough times, I wake up, I wouldn't have anything to draw off of. So here's what Pastor's going to say here, right? And it's this. It's okay, Tom, you can go. He's getting a workout. Our dog. The mascot. Come here, buddy. Come here. Good boy. Okay. All right. That's what we call home church. All right. So, what do I think about? I go right to the App Store and I start looking for an app. Because I just do stuff digitally, right? So, and I find an app. And the app actually allows you to put your cards in. Basically, you type them, okay? You can section them. Like, these are the love verses, or like if I want to feel something about, like I'm doubting or whatever, I can, kind of title that and then have all these cards underneath it, and I can just flip through it. Basically, it's taking the paper and just putting it electronically. So, I downloaded the app. I got it now. Now, the other key part is, will I fill it out? Because see, you can get the app, or you can even buy cards at the store. You can buy the note cards, and you can put them on a table or something and go, okay, I got to get to that this week. I got to write the cards out. See, so I'm not just gonna pick on people who do paper only, and I'm not gonna pick on people who are digital only. The same thing applies. You did one step, but will you do the other step? Will you actually go the next step? So this week, I have it on my calendar that I need to take time and start just letting God fill me with the verses that I've seen over and over again, or where I Google them or whatever, and start to create these cards in that way. No matter where I am, I got something electronic on me, okay? I can flip to those things in a heartbeat. Okay? And I can, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, evening, whenever, whatever, on a car ride or whatever, I can flip to those scriptures in a heartbeat. I can go right through them and I can literally flash them. And you can use it for anything. So it could be for learning, memorizing. I want them for reference. The reason why I say all that is to say that little things mean a lot. Little things mean a lot. And one of the things that I got convicted of in this last year was, as a leader, that if I say something and I don't follow through with it, people are not going to take me seriously. Then they're also not going to be able to follow me because they have no idea where the train's going. So 1 minute I'm over here, the next minute I'm over here. 1 minute I'm over here, the next minute I'm over here. Try following that. After a while, you're like, I don't know where you're going. Now, I'm not saying that I've nailed this, and I'm not saying that I'm, especially when you're trying to figure things out and trying to work through things, and all of a sudden God says, okay, back to main point here, and you got to go back and change things again. It can seem like, oh, he just talked about this, and now he's doing it again. No, I'm talking about deliberately doing it. I'm talking about all the time, all day long, like constantly just shifting and jiving and not following through on stuff. I mean, think about it. If you've had somebody tell you, hey, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to call you today, and oh yeah, we're going to do lunch, and they never do it. They never follow up with it. I mean, I'm not talking about big plan. I'm not talking about success equals that formula we just saw. I'm talking about, will you just simply call me? Or will I call you at the time that I said I was going to? It's little things like that. Yeah, Steve, I'll be in church. We're here. And I've had people tell me that, and I haven't even had to say anything to them. They're come up to me and they're like, yeah, I'm coming to your church this week. They don't show up. And they'll do it over and over again. And every time I see them, oh yeah, we're going to go to church. I'm going to be at your church. Oh, we want to be a big part of what you're doing on that. Never show up. So what is that credibility they got? Simple. Because what they've said doesn't match up with what they do. This is why this is a really convicting and kind of in-your-face sermon today. And it's for me too, believe me. Because a lot of people will die and not fulfill their God-given mission. That's the tragedy of the whole thing. Now, I'm just talking about flashcards and, and just call me or don't call me. And it may seem minuscule. It's it's small stuff. If you start with the small stuff and mess it up there, you'll do it with the bigger stuff. It'll be a habit that'll go all the way down the line. It goes with you. If you're consistent to the best of your ability every day, people are going to know that they can rely on you. They're going to know that when you say something, unless you're having a bad day or something comes in the way, they know that they can count on you. They're going to go to you. Now, unfortunately, the people that we count on to do that, they get, especially in church, they get bombarded because, especially from a pastor's perspective, you dump everything on them because it's nobody else is doing it, so they got to do it. And then they get burned out and they leave. That's happened a lot. So I'm very cautious about that. But the bottom line is, if you're doing it in the small things where you're not executing, the bigger things are really out of the question. Habits and consistency all through it to say, okay, this is what you need me to do, Lord. Essentially, if you really want to boil down to it, it's disobedience. If God's telling you to do it, if He's saying, I need you to do this, and you're not doing this because you haven't executed, you're being disobedient. And I am too. That's a hard pill to swallow. It may seem like, no big deal. God's saying, get your health in order, and you need to go down and visit the gym, but you decide you don't want to. You're being disobedient. So, here we go. You're supposed to give unto the Lord, but you don't do it. That's disobedience. That don't affect me any. I'm going to do what we got to do with the ministry or whatever God gives us. Focus on the plan. Focus on execution. It's His problem to worry about the resource. It's our issue to execute it and do it well. Okay? So let's go to the next slide, honey. So we're looking at Genesis chapter 41. We're at a great time in this story. Oh my goodness. if you've never joined into the service, is this like your first time listening to this or listening to the story of Joseph? I'm going to encourage you to go to our website, rhofhim.org, and check out the back sermons that we've done on this. But basically, you got this teenager who has no idea what kind of big thing that he was going to get into other than he has a dream. And he's telling his family, I'm going to rule over you guys. And they get jealous and they get mad at him and they throw him in a pit. He gets brought back up. He gets sold as a slave. He ends up going to one of the key generals in Pharaoh's army, named Potiphar. Gets wrongfully accused of raping his wife and gets sent to jail for probably over a decade. And then finally is called up one day. Pharaoh has a dream, says nobody can interpret it. We know a Hebrew guy that can do it. Joseph's called up to do it. He does it. And he gives him a solution. And Pharaoh says, well, who else can do this but you? And so last week we talked about the importance of credentials and titles and so forth in context. Okay? That God had to put him before the Egyptian people to say, you have this authority here. But now we actually get into the story where it actually executes. It actually plays out. Okay? Now remember, he started off at 17 in this journey. 17 years old. It says he's now 30. 13 years. Just remember that number. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and traveled through Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentiful. And Joseph collected all the food produced in those 7 years of abundance in Egypt and stored it in the cities. And this is part of the game plan. In each city, he put the food grown in the fields surrounding it. Joseph stored up huge quantities of grain, and like the sand of the sea, it was so much that he stopped keeping records because it was beyond measure. So he's carrying this out. He's doing it. He leaves Pharaoh. He's got the power now. The old song, I got the power. And like he's actually implementing it. He's executing it. He's going for it, right? Let's go to the next slide, honey. I'm sorry. You're good. Before the years of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, if I said it right, priest of On. Joseph named his firstborn Manasseh and said, it is because God had made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household. And the second son he named Ephraim and said, it is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering. So as he's now implementing, he's also enjoying himself doing this. This is fun. And he's been blessed with his family, and now he has a family of his own. And he's saying, thank God that all my troubles are behind me. That all that stuff I've been through is now in the past. And he's naming his kids that so he can remind himself every time he calls them that name that that's what that means. Is anybody with me? So he says it's because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering. So he's acknowledging, he's saying, look, hey, this is what's going on. Let's go to the next slide. The 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end, and the 7